So, Steve, hello and welcome to the Bought the T-Shirt podcast.
Hello, buddy. How are you doing?
Yes. every day's an interesting one, hey?
Every day's a school day, yeah.
Yeah. So, thanks ever so much for coming on, Steve. I'm just really in awe of what it is you've created there on Facebook with Spartan. And obviously we'll come on and talk about that. Do you want to just tell our listeners or viewers a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Steve Burns. I joined the Royal Marines at the age of 16 and then moved on to the SBS. Had an amazing career, about 15 years. Left 2012 after a busy time. Left in 2012 with a bit of a cloud over my head. If I'm honest, had my own personal struggles, lots of things in the pot, but essentially came out the other side a much better person for the struggles, and that's what's led me to where I am now. And like you just touched on there, Spartan, essentially Spartan as it is at the minute is a veteran and uniformed services community, closed group on Facebook. But this is kind of just the first stage of what we're trying to do. In the background, we're developing our own platform.
Yeah. How, if I may be so,
kind of migrate to, which will have a function a lot more.
So, you said you left under a bit of a cloud. I kind of left the Marines that way in sort of one respect. Can you tell us more about that, or is it not something you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm happy to share it because I think a lot of people could probably relate, and probably there would be a little bit of value to what I went through, and other people can rather than go through the same route I went, they can maybe just cut out the middle ground and go straight to where I am now. In 2010, I was awarded the Military Cross for a job in Afghanistan, and the reason I mention that is because it was actually the catalyst to my downturn. I went through a load of stuff, and basically I ran out of road. I didn't have a goal to kind of to keep focusing on. I remember thinking to myself, I'm 27 years old, and I've pretty much achieved what I perceived at the time as the pinnacle of what I wanted to do. And where do I go from there? I was heavily drinking. I was just basically pulled the pin, went into self-destruct, got into a relationship that was with a perfect partner that would help me self-destruct. And there's no blame there because actually I was in the same kind of vibrations to attract that. You know what I mean? We were on the same level. So I seen a charity called Rock to Recovery, and a lot of the sessions that I was doing went back to my childhood, and it's important to highlight that up until this point, I didn't think I was carrying anything. There was anything wrong with me. There was any baggage from my childhood. I just went through my military career and I've always trying to excel and push myself, push boundaries. So when they were doing these sessions with me, that was totally kind of new to me. And at the time, I remember thinking, this is absolutely crazy stuff that they're doing. This stuff doesn't work, and really didn't. I was very narrow-minded. So they're doing all this kind of stuff, and it would go back to my childhood. And what I came out the other side is realizing how much my childhood had an impact on me as a person.
Yeah, of course.
So Rock to Recovery were great, and then I kind of started getting myself back on my feet. I went from being homeless, diagnosed with a personality disorder, told I would never be able to work security again, potentially not having my kids. I was living on the street. I remember I spent 6 months pretty much living in my car, and I was self-harming. I took an overdose a couple of times, and I just went from where, I went from top of the career ladder from my rank and my peer group to kind of left the military, left everything I knew, to then losing everything that I possibly could.
Well, Steve, when did you join up, and what rank did you get to?
I joined in '98, the age just straight from school, and I left 2012. And I was a corporal down at Pool.
Okay, so I guess for people listening, the SBS, or is it Special Boat Service or Squadron?
Special Boat Service.
It is, yeah. It used to be Squadron though, didn't it? And I think they changed it to be in line with the SAS. I might have got that wrong.
Yeah, I should probably know that. But yeah, they definitely did. I just don't know what time, but I think it would have been in line with their growth.
Wow. It fascinates me because, well, perhaps I just tell people a little bit about myself for people that are watching this, maybe coming from your page, that wondering how I fit into all of this, because it's interesting you mentioned the SBS. I left the Corps in 95, so quite some time ago now. I went to I left because I'd started a business which got really successful in Hong Kong, and within, let's just say, 6 months of being in Hong Kong, I had this business that was turning over quite a lot of money. When I went out there, it suddenly fizzled away to nothing.
Yeah.
I became chronically addicted to crystal meth. To me, I mean, I won't bore you, but I've written a couple of books. If anyone, this is not a shameless plug, by the way, folks, because as you might have heard me say, us authors, we don't make money from these things. But if it can help anyone, that was my first book, Eating Smoke, and I just described taking crystal meth as the key in the lock for me. I felt so freaking awesome, and I'm guessing that subconsciously, I probably felt a bit maybe normal for the first time in my life, you know.
Yeah.
Which is obviously the dangerous thing with addiction. And I entered what's called clinical psychosis.
Yeah.
Basically had a form of schizophrenia I lived in and out of schizophrenia for 6 months. And of course, when you initially become mentally unwell, you don't know what's happening to you. So you don't recognize all of you think you're normal when it's everyone else has got the problem, right?
Yeah.
So I subsequently wrote a book, 40 Nights, which is probably of more interest for anybody who's having struggles or who wants to learn more about the veterans experience. This is how I spent about 2 years in Plymouth. I'd come back from Hong Kong, and it took me those 2 years to really get my life back on track. I mean, I don't like to use terms like lost and rock bottom, because I think, like yourself, I see it all as the journey. I've got such a wonderful girlfriend and a little 4-year-old boy now, that to think that if my life had been any different back then, I wouldn't have them now. You know, that's worth going through everything that I've experienced.
I think that's important to get across. And I sometimes feel a bit awkward saying it. You know, there is people who will be in very dark places, and in them hearing that might be able to get their back up. But I really kind of believe that I wouldn't change a thing that I went through, because it made me who I am. And to take even one step of that away would mean I wouldn't be where I am now. So
yeah,
it's a good message to get out there.
And also, I mean, not wishing to blow my trumpet, but I believe in just talking the truth, Steve, you know, and then people can make of it what they want. But I always think if you just hold back, or you try to, you know, put things too politically correctly so you're not going to upset people, it's you know, you're denying them the chance of making sense of their own life, right? So, like I say, not wishing to blow my own trumpet, but off the back of my addiction, what society would view as losing everything, I went on to achieve every single goal that I ever had. I've traveled all 7 continents. I've backpacked through like 80 countries. I've written best-selling book. I became a pilot. You know, I got my pilot's license, skydiving license, university graduate, Antarctic explorer. I won't go on, and like I say, I'm not saying this to try to impress. I'm trying to say it that when people go, "Oh well, you sorted your shit out now," it's like, well, actually, like I've kind of like achieved everything that I ever wanted to do. And have you done that? You know, I don't mean that to sound derogatory. I just mean that society has a very poor way of constructing mental health experiences.
Yeah.
I hope people listening to this that are maybe in the dark place at the moment, you know, can just take from that you know, problems are only ever temporary, and they are the experiences to learn by, like any other in life. And I also think if you just have the easy life, Steve, where's the learning in that, you know?
Yeah, and you know, no one wants to hear the story of the person who had everything given to them and everything was easy, do they? You know,
No.
so that's what life's about. It's about overcoming obstacles in tough times, and kind of in getting back up, dusting yourself down. And I think that's the kind of the key to having to coming out. I think, you know, like Spartan, we're trying to keep the whole message, and you've seen how people are commenting how it's different to other veteran groups, and I spend 18 hours of my day kind of on that, making sure I'm interacting with people, making sure people are okay, and actually I spend a lot of time trying to keep people facing forward. You know, there's a lot of people who just want to turn it into another group and post the usual kind of stuff and kind of doom and gloom. And I was like, look, you need to start telling a different story. Because if you keep telling the same story, you'll just kind of regurgitate that same cycle. So it's about getting people to say, right, let's just focus on the positives. And they might not have many, but let's try and focus on that and then build the positive momentum. And then before you know it, you're kind of looking forward, and then we're kind of taking step by step. And that's the kind of whole ethos of the group. And that's what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, I completely get you there. I think it's almost, you almost kind of feel for people. I've seen some sort of comments on the page, and they're not going to be helpful for that individual to develop. Do you know what I mean? It's like you say, it's just repeating. I mean, I've seen people with, let's say, different opinions.
Yeah.
On, for example, the military, what the military does. And I know how I kind of, you know, I have my own sort of feeling on that now. I think I'm fortunate that because I left such a long time ago, and because I've always been committed to sort of educating myself, it's just been a driving force within me. I always say, you know, you get one life, and if you live it right, one is enough, right? And off the back of that, it's been just a massive learning curve for me. It's why I've done so much traveling. It's why I constantly read, I constantly, you know, search out the documentaries, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know if I'm trying to say that sometimes you want more for people, you want them to be like further ahead, you know, in their education. But I guess everything comes to all of us, doesn't it? At the sort of,
well, yeah, just like we touched on before, you know, we wouldn't take any of the steps away from us. So it's kind of yeah, obviously we prefer that nobody was in a dark place, but as long as we kind of have trust in human nature and trust in them, they've got all the tools that they need, they can get out of it. You know, I think we must have had something like 90,000 interactions already on the group in 3 weeks. And generally, 99% of them have been positive, uplifting. There's been people rallying around each other. And I think people sharing a story, although sometimes it gets you right in the chest, I think that's a good thing, because they're able to explain how they've got to where they are. But then again, it's about saying, right, getting that off the chest, and then saying, right now, this is where I am, and I'm focused on the future.
Yeah. Isn't it surprising? The way I feel when I read those stories, for people listening, when people join Steve's Spartan page, they very often introduce themselves. It's not a requirement, but they very often feel, well, it's a combination. Some people are obviously offloading. Some people are kind of testing the water because I don't think they've let a lot of people know this in the past. I organise a Royal Marines reunion every year here in Plymouth, and it's funny how you have you have an impression of one of your oppos, one of your friends, that's just such a great guy, and then I see him on your page and they've had a horrendous story to come through. And yeah, they're quite deep, aren't they, some of those stories?
It's blown me away. I mean, I don't know, it's not something I set out on doing, is trying to get people to share like they have been, but wow, I mean, the impact it's had has just been phenomenal, and pretty much getting daily messages of and it's quite, I feel a bit Chad taking like any credit for it, because actually I just set a group up and everyone else has bought into it, and it's them that have made it what it is.
Yeah, it's I mean, you do an amazing job. I see the way you kind of caretake around people, and always a nice reply and a welcome for people and a thank you for sharing. And I see Sam is involved. Sam's a very old very old friend of mine.
Good guys.
And it's amazing to see so many people now kind of on this educational journey. And the reason why I'm so happy about that is I know how much I've got from this whole kind of experience, from my experience. But what I see is my experience is very similar to quite so many others. In fact, isn't it amazing how many veterans seem to have this troubled childhood?
Well, I think it is, but at the same time, I don't think once you look into it a bit, I think it then becomes quite an obvious thing, because if you look at, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change anything. I joined at 16; it was the best thing I did. But I do think the campaigns are kind of geared towards that. Maybe that person who's a little bit wants to become something bigger than themselves. 99.99% need not apply. Be the best. And then with the latest of the TA, do something worthwhile with at least 19 days of your life. As in, the rest of it's just going to be dog toffee. So I think there is a little element where they play on that, but it gives people a route out. But then I think maybe there's something that needs to be put in place where it's like, okay, we understand that where we're recruiting from. We're kind of happy to use that for a job, for a purpose. But then maybe we need to have something in place further back down the line, before they come to leaving, before they've been on ops. So it's kind of it's already in place and it's already been talked about. But maybe that's where the education now comes in. And this has been highlighted. Then okay, well, let's do something and actually go back to our Spartan platform. I'd like it to become something that starts with you in recruit training. Week 1, day 1, everyone's got a smartphone. Why can't you have this kind of 24/7 support in your phone? Grows with you through your career as you transition outside. So the things like when you leave, they kind of, you know what it's like when you're in the call. It consumes you. You are a bootneck. 24/7. So your identity, your structure, your purpose, they're all taken up. And then when you come to leave, you walk out that door and it's like, I'm not that person anymore. I don't do that anymore. What's my purpose? So that's what I want to try and help with.
I've been doing a lot of thinking on the whole kind of, let's call it the PTSD situation, right? Or maybe in general the troubles that military personnel face when they go into Civvy Street. And your page is kind of almost not confirmed, because I don't think anyone fits one mold, right? We're all, you know, we've all got individual stories, but I think very often you're getting a scenario where you've got a damaged young man or woman. They're joining, say, the Corps because they want to prove themselves to family and friends. They then get this lifestyle, which, as well as the extreme toughness, which you know even more than me, Steve, you know, but you also get this very protected environment, don't you, with your bills are taken care of, your health's taken care of. As long as you turn up in the morning and you know how to shave, you can spend 25 years in the Marines, no problem, right?
Yeah, you kind of wrapped up in cotton wool to a certain extent, aren't you?
But then when you come out the other side and you're in Civvy Street, and it's a bit of a shocker, or certain elements of it well, it involves change, and change is always going to scare people in general, isn't it? We don't kind of like change. And then once you start relying on alcohol as a crutch as a coping mechanism to get over these stresses, and then suddenly you've got a situation where your family are like, Chris, you're too much, you know, you got to go and spend some time away, and this kind of thing. You can start to see how this is a journey from childhood, isn't it? That's shared by, I mean, you always think of PTSD as kind of like the Rambo scenario, where he's been in Vietnam, he's been tortured, you know, he's seen horrific things and it's damaged him. But what I would like to see more research into, and more of a focus on, is how do our life stories from childhood end up creating a character that is susceptible to this trauma and this upset in their lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I did some research a while back, and I came across some links. And the government did some research into PTSD, and I think it's quite commonly known that people with maybe, let's say, not so steady foundations from childhood are prone to suffer more with PTSD. So it's almost like you've got these shaky foundations that you manage to survive on through your life, and then as soon as something happens, like an incident that will trigger PTSD, then they start to crumble. So the PTSD, the incident, is multiplied.
It's like the incident acts as a catalyst, isn't it?
Yeah.
A catalyst, and then things start to fall apart or not make sense. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was I still don't know what I class my the stuff I went through as, but for me, it was more a case that I wanted to go away on ops, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And then when I got down a pool, and the tempo was high, and it was kind of back-to-back tours, then I was like, it was when I came home, I didn't want to be home. Like, get me back out there. I want to keep doing that. I want to keep doing my job. And that's when I remember, and I've mentioned it before to people, like, I came home and we got 8 weeks off. I was like, I'm a young lad. I do not need 8 weeks off. And I was going to ring the Sergeant Major. I was thinking about going in to see the Padre to tell him, you need to get me back out on ops. And that's not a healthy place to be in the mindset. But that's how I was. But that comes from me seeking. I loved it. I loved doing what I loved being in the Marines. I loved the service. But I think there was an element of seeking external validation. And once you were doing it and getting it, it was like, then when you come home, it's like, well, how are you going to get that again?
Yeah. Well, it's like Sebastian Junger, who wrote the book Tribe, and he made the documentary. I might be getting my wires crossed, but was it called Restrepo? It was about the US Marines outpost in Afghanistan, or it might have been the army. And he poses this question. He does a TED talk, and he says, you know, what is it that make young men want to go to war? Because he knew so many that came back to civilian life, and it's like they just wanted to be back in Afghanistan again, which to the uninitiated, that might sound like a crazy, you know, you're getting your friends killed every day. Why would you want that? But I think what Sebastian Junger was hitting upon is you've got this certain set of rules, you know, as long as you abide by them, you're going to be okay. You've got your comrades around you 24/7, your family. And of course, you've got the excitement of a kind of almost like a no holds barred theatre of war, isn't it? You know, it's like all your cowboy and Indian games that you played as a kid. They're actually for, you know, for real. So, yeah. How long have you been out now, Steve?
7 years.
7 years. Okay. And yeah, interesting question, wasn't it? Someone posted about civvies, and there was a real good back and forth, and yeah, off the back of it, I've kind of like made a couple of contacts. I hope they'll come on they are going to come on the podcast, you know.
Oh, good.
Because I just love, I like people that can think outside the box, you know. It's I think because it reaffirms what I've learned over the years. In the same way, I like seeing stuff on the pages where someone sums up, say, how to get out the black hole or whatever it is, and you're like, yes, that is exactly what I learned. So let's just talk two things. I want to end, Stephen, if we may, just talking a bit about your SB career, because I would find that fascinating. When I wrote 40 Nights, and I was explaining where I got to this point in the Marines where I felt like I'd done everything, you know. I'd sampled, I'd been to Norway, I'd been in Northern Ireland, which was our kind of, you know, flavour of combat back then, or active service. I was on ship for a year, which was just amazing. And when my business came along, it because I started it part-time in the Marines, it felt like the right time to leave, you know. Yeah. But when I wrote 40 Nights, and I look back on my time, especially now, I've been watching a lot of this SAS Who Dares Wins, and Ant Middleton. We've had a few kind of exchanges on social media and stuff, and he's supported me when I ran the length for the UK. And it's like I kind of get it now more than I did back then. Yeah. When I was 18, 19, I wasn't even 10 stone, I think, when I joined up. Swimming was just not, I mean, I was in the last 3 people to pass my swimming test at Lympstone. And so I never really considered a career in the Special Forces, because I just wouldn't have been good enough for it, you know. Yeah. So, but I do say in my book, you know, the 2 things I would love to have done in the Corps would have been to go to the jungle, which I've now done subsequently in life, right? I've had a few trips to the Amazon and stuff, which has been great. Yeah. So yeah, can we just talk a bit about that? Is how hard is selection, for example, compared to what us recruits went through at Lympstone?
I think I'd say that anybody that passed at Lympstone has the ability to pass selection. In fact, anybody can pass selection. I'm a big believer in that. I think it was it was equally hard, but for different reasons. So in the Marines, you kind of found that. I mean, I was 16, so it was hard anyways at that age. But I enjoyed it. I think the hard bit was the intimidation. The training team are a lot different. You know, it's like kind of pays to be a winner, and all the thrashings you get. They're very good at motivating you, and you almost do. You obviously want to do well. You want to pass, but there's a lot of fear, isn't there? You don't want to get on the wrong side of the training team.
Yeah.
And also there's the added motivation. I mean, I never really considered that I was going to fail. But I'd imagine there was guys that were older than me that were, they probably had jobs outside. They'd give it all up to join the Marines. And then there was the benefit, the kind of extra motivation of that. If I don't pass, I've got to find a job.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a big motivation thing. Whereas when you go on selection, if you come off selection, there's no big shakes. You're going to go back to your unit, and you kind of, you know, you're going to go back to where you were. There's not, apart from obviously not passing the course, there's not like a massive change to your life. And in its self-motivation, there's nobody barking at you. There's no one saying you better be here by this time. In fact, I think the training team or the DS quite they probably get quite a lot out of kind of, oh, he's not turning up. You know, it's kind of they don't really it's self-motivation, and they don't really want you to pass in a way,
Right?
Because obviously if it's the tougher it is, the better we look, don't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, I say self-motivation, and also it's the I think with selection, it's the fear of the unknown as well. You never know what's really coming. I mean, yeah, now you get guys who go and prep for the hills, and but past that, you don't really know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And I think it's that. I think a lot of people beat themselves in their own mind before the events even happened. You see loads of lads, like I said, prep for the hills, so they've got that done. Their mind's already set for that, but they've then not thought, well, what's coming next?
Yeah.
And that's when you see like people drop like flies.
Wow.
So it's different. But I definitely think once I passed, there wasn't like it was almost like an anticlimax. It wasn't a big kind of celebration. You passed the Marines, yes, I've done it, King of Squad. It was almost just like, all right, and now what? Where am I going now?
Yeah.
What's the next job? And I think that sums it up really. And then kind of leading on from that, I joined my squadron straight on tour. And I had a really great operational time. You know, it was busy. It was everything that I wanted to do. And like you were saying about the Marines, you kind of tick all the boxes, and it's like, well, what am I going to do? And for me, it was either leave or selection.
Wow.
And I think it's important to kind of. It wasn't like the operational tempo. It wasn't about being all kind of gung ho or anything like that. It was the way I kind of equate it now is like if you're a professional athlete playing for a sports team at the top of the game, you want to test yourself. You don't want to just train, do you? You want to test yourself playing in the Champions League final. You want to. That's what we're there to do. So that's what it's more about. And you know, So I had a really good career from there.
How did you find the swimming and the diving side of things?
I had grommets in my ears when I was a kid, so my eardrums were like tracing paper. So actually, I didn't end up doing. I didn't complete the dive course. And to be fair, it's very. I mean, there is a need for it, but it's very little in the kind of current operational tempo.
That's fascinating. I had no idea. I thought that was kind of the main thrust of SB was the diving, but I guess in this day and age, you know, the theatre war has changed, and not much need for diving in the desert, right?
Exactly, mate. Yeah, there's a remit to cover. You know, obviously it's covered very well, but focus is definitely elsewhere, and kind of like you said, current climates.
And what do you do now, Steve, when you're not, you know, supporting veterans on Facebook and doing podcasts?
So I set up a company a couple of years ago, based on what I learned about my childhood and how it affected me. So I set up a company called Wheel, which stands for World in Our Hands. As it is, it's an app at the minute, and essentially it's like a fitness tracker. But instead of setting fitness goals, it's about setting goals to spend quality time with your family.
Wow.
That's the app side of it, and we're now developing kind of positive mindset workshops that we want to deliver to youth and also to the kind of wider community, just to show that I'm a big believer that if you believe in yourself and you put your mind to it, you can achieve whatever you want. And I think that message needs to be passed around into every corner of society, because I think there's a lot of kids that are grown up without good self-esteem, and that'll lead to troubles later in life.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that, I mean, as I mentioned last year, I ran 1,000 miles non-stop. Right, decided to run an ultramarathon every day, carrying all my camping equipment. So that was 14 kilos. Right. So, and this year I came last in an Olympic triathlon. Right, and so I decided 8 weeks later to do a quadruple Ironman, and I was literally running 3 and 4 milers. That was it. I made sure I could swim enough that I wasn't going to drown. Right, so it's a 9.6 mile swim, 450-mile bike, and the run was supposed to be 100 miles, but I went the wrong way so many times. It was 108 miles, right, in the blistering hot sun. But I feel a bit of a fraud, because I'm writing my book about the run actually at the minute, and I've come up with these. I don't want to call them like rules, but they're kind of guides. There's about 30 things that I do in my life just to stay happy, and to achieve, and to keep achieving. It's not like I've got to achieve massive things, but we only get one life, right? And I love to keep busy, right?
Yeah.
And I almost feel a bit of a fraud, because people seem to think these extreme challenges are almost like superhuman, right?
Yeah.
But I just am saying, well, can you get on a plane to John O'Groats? Yeah. Do you know how to put like one foot in front of the other? Yeah. Can you put a tent up? Or could you learn? Yeah. Well, you've got all the skills. I did my John O'Groats run after being disabled for 2.5 years. I had popped a disc in my spine, and I was laid up for. It was a. Well, I mean, I still got problems now, but I had spinal surgery. Open blooming surgery to cut the problem out, and so I can do any running at all. So it wasn't even like I trained for it. I just went. Maybe I use the Commando mindset,
Yeah.
But I just like to get across to people that know, one of my kind of like things I say here is, run around the block. Everything I've ever done, including joining the Marines, starts with walking or running like a quarter of a mile, just to get my endorphins working and get me in that mood. Buy the ticket. That just means I put my money before myself. So for John O'Groats, like I bought the air ticket. It's like I'm booked on that plane, right? I've got to go. I've got to go now. And so yeah, not sure how we kind of digress to John O'Groats, but I certainly feel that I've got like my portfolio of things that keep me on the straight and narrow. And I also think it's important for people to realize you still have dips every now and again, or you still have challenges, but you're much better equipped to deal with them and to get yourself before you enter that black, dark phase, which is just awful. You can sort of keep yourself out of it. Would you say that's your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think I didn't know who I was. I didn't know anything about my own potential, which sounds strange because I had achieved a lot, but actually, outside of a uniform, I felt like I was a nobody. So for me, I learned who I was. I learned my true potential. I learned why I got to the place I got, both up and down. And then the kind of question I said was, how can I be so good at work, yet outside of it be so rubbish? And then kind of worked my own little strategies out. But I think self-development is key.
Yeah.
You know, people talk about being in a rut. Well, if you're not, like, it sounds Chad, but anything in nature, if it's not growing, it's dying. That goes for you. So self-development, you know, we kind of go through this. We're conditioned as a society to get to a point where you've got that beautiful family home, you've got the car, you've got the job, you've got the family, and then it's like, well, then what? Like, people, that's, no one says, well, after that, maybe you should do this and do this. Well, you should always be trying to develop yourself in some way, whether it's reading a book, meditating, fitness, just something. And you kind of, you're setting goals, just keeping that forward momentum so you don't get in a rut. And I think the big thing for me is I think I know enough about my potential now that I don't think I'll ever get into that dark place again, because I'm so confident in my own ability. Don't get me wrong, there's days when as a single parent, there's days when I bloody cried myself to sleep, but I accept that as part of life. You're allowed to have bad days. It's accepting it. You don't fight it, because you fight it, you give it energy, friction. So accept it, and then you move on. Brilliant. You want them bad days in a way, because it's the bad days that allow you to grow, and then say, right, well, there's something not right here. I need to change a little bit of tack, you know, which direction I've gone in. And it's that kind of, in a guidance system that says there's something not right, you can change it. But you've got the ability to change it.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, really, because I'm fascinated learning about the spiritual kind of side of life and the tuning yourself into the universe. And I think I said in my post there, once you understand, we are just really carbon molecules, aren't we? You know, it's when you understand that you're not really much different to a house brick. We've just been led to believe we are, because we've got this thought and, you know, consciousness, which is only it's just molecules like everything else, right? And when you take that on board, then immediately what you're doing is you're getting rid of your ego, aren't you? Yeah. You know, and ego seems to be the main attractor of problems. Yeah. You know, across the board. You know, if you're depressed, it's because you're taking this. Well, I mean, there's many different reasons for depression, of course, but you know, it can be that you're kind of taking this thing a bit too serious. With, you know, you get one chance in life, and then you're very quickly gone, and then you go back to the earth. I did a video on my YouTube channel about grief and things to me which are just second nature. It's like, if I lose a friend or a loved one, it's you know, I'm just going to smile for them, Steve. You know, and what you're seeing more and more these days is this, I don't know if it's just social media, but this kind of, like, you know, 100 years ago today, my great granddad died, and I just can never get, and it's like, oh, I just wish those people could frame it a bit more positive, you know. Instead, it's kind of creating this idea that that's how you're supposed to be around life and death, and it doesn't need to be like that, you know.
Yeah, I met with a Burma Star veteran in the last 12 months. 93-year-old, probably 94 now, actually. And he's actually on Spartan. I came away thinking, and obviously a lot of the people he served, well, pretty much everyone has passed away. I came away thinking, you know what? He made such a sacrifice, and all the people that made the sacrifice, that I think the best way is to just try and live every day celebrating your life.
Yeah.
It isn't always easy, I know. I'm not saying I walk around skipping everywhere, but I think that's the best way. And And you're right, I think there's got to become a kind of switch. Yeah, we remember, but let's celebrate. You know, there's a thing now in like social media where people post hero of the day, and obviously it's a touchy kind of subject, but yeah, we all remember people. We all lost people, friends, close friends, family, and we remember them. If you need to post and it's someone really dear to you, by all means post. But it's almost like somebody just sees something and go, oh, I'm just going to post about that. I'm just going to post and put that out there, not really thinking of the implications of actually, well, you might be taking someone back behind them, thinking of something really bad. You know, so yeah, let's remember, let's celebrate and look towards and kind of try to live a life that they'd be glad they almost sacrificed their lives.
Yeah,
so we
exactly. You know, make them proud, isn't it? Because
yeah.
I mean, the first thing on my life kind of philosophy or psychology, whatever you want to call it, smile at the morning sun. It sounds a bit hippy dippy, but you know, when I had nothing and I literally woke up skint, I was sticking needles in my arm like 12 times a day. All my family had gone because they didn't know how to deal with me. My friends, you know, as some of us will have found out, the people you think your friends very quickly desert you in your time of need, right? You know, they just can't handle your impinging on their very carefully constructed system, right? And so I was there and I was cold. I was literally starving. I hadn't eaten for days and days. And cut a long story short, you know, the sun was smiling through the blinds, and I had, like, I think nervous breakdown about number 5. I didn't even know what a nervous breakdown was, but I guess when you cry your eyes out as a grown man and you wondering what the hell has happened to my life, what have I done wrong? I guess that's a nervous breakdown. And as this sun was sort of shining through the window, and I sort of came around and I stopped feeling miserable for myself, I just felt like it's like the universe reaching out to me and telling me, you know, you're all right, you're okay. It's nothing that worth getting upset about. And ever since that day, Steve, I make it a habit. Well, I mean, I don't do it every day. I'm not like obsessive, right? But I make it like a habit to smile at the sun. Yeah. And the reason I'm doing it is you and I both know a lot of people that aren't here anymore. And they'd love to be in our position with our, you know, our first world problems and stuff, wouldn't they? You know? Yeah. And I do it to remind myself that wherever your head might be, this life is still beautiful. And this world, it's just an incredible place. Yeah. So yeah. Well, mate, shall we end it there? You've been absolutely brilliant.
I appreciate you inviting me on.
No. Well, let's pick this up again, you know, at a later date and see how things are progressing. Do you want to? Have you got any social media kind of contacts you want people to know about? Like, so it's Spartan on Facebook, right?
Yeah, Spartan for the kind of veteran uniform services community.
Is that open to kind of like attached ranks and family and stuff? Or?
You know, we legitimately they do have a case to be part of it, but actually I'm trying to think of the guys that are on there that are opening up, and I think maybe at the minute definitely there's a case that we just kind of keep it for the veteran community. But what we've done is we set up Spartan families, so that the families, the loved ones, partners, etc., all have a place that they can go to, and maybe a channel, so then they can reach out. And like I said, this isn't the main effort. Our platform will be ready, hopefully very soon, and then we will be able to have all these channels, and then people will be able to have a place where they can come and get support and uplift each other, and then obviously the parent families as well.
Well, mate, it's all very exciting. If I can help you in any way to do anything, then I'm more than you know, it'd just be great to work with you. You're a great guy, Steve, and I thank you on behalf of the veterans community. You know, it's it's almost unbelievable. It's been this long coming that someone's just thought to have this simple idea that and it clearly means so much to people. And I think it reminds people that they've always got family, no matter, you know, how they might be feeling. It also brings back that esprit de corps, you know, that we did. You know, I'm a pacifist now. I hate war, and I'm pretty kind of dubious of the reasons why we go to war. But that's another story again. But I'm still really proud of my time in the service, you know, and I'm sure everybody is. And we,
exactly.
You know, we did a very special thing, and we really did. I mean, you know, it's particularly Marines training, you know, very, very few people will attempt it, and very few people will get through. So yeah, massive congratulations. What I'll do for our listeners is I'll put any links you want in the comments on YouTube. So if they want to contact you.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll keep you posted on our progress, and look forward to chatting again.
Brilliant, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, Steve. Take care.
Okay.